of men and women, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have called to the performance of important trusts in these islands. Father, let your blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and of those whose interest you have committed to our charge. And this we beg in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Please be seated. Item number 2, the confirmation of minutes, 6th of July. Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning
Thank
to you.
Morning, fellow senators and the listening audience.
Mhm.
Madam President, I move that the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, the 6th of July, 2022 be taken as read.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Madam President, I move that the minutes of Wednesday, the 6th of July, 2022 be confirmed.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The minutes are confirmed. Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons.
You're welcome.
Vice President. Item number 2, oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Item number 3, messages.
No messages, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. I would just like to report or to indicate to the Senator Lindsay Simmons and Reverend Dr. Emily Dill, who have given their apologies for their absence today. Item number 4, reports of committees. There are none. Item number 5, announcements. We have several announcements, and the first is in the name of Senator Owen Darrell, the Junior Minister of the Cabinet Office. Senator Darrell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I hereby present for the information of Senate the annual report of the Bermuda Tourism Authority for the year 2021 and the consolidated financial statements of the Bermuda Tourism Authority for the year ended December 31st, 2021.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. We have further announcements, and there are several of them, and they're in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, the Junior Minister for Labor. Senator Hudson, you have the floor.
Madam President, I hereby present for the information of Senate the guidelines submitting applications for approved residential schemes within the economic empowerment zones as produced by the BEDC.
Thank you, Senator. You can continue with the other announcements.
Madam President, I hereby present for the information of Senate the following statutory instruments. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Supplemental Unemployment Benefit Amendment Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Supplemental Unemployment Benefit Amendment Number 2 Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3 Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3 Amendment Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 4 Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 5 Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3 Amendment Number 2 Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3 Amendment Number 3 Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 4 Amendment Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 5 Amendment Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 5 Amendment Number 2 Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3, Amendment Number 4, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 4, Amendment Number 2, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 5, Amendment Number 3, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 4, Amendment Number 3, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3, Amendment Number 5, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3, Amendment Number 6, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 4, Amendment Number 4, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 5, Amendment Number 4, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 4, Amendment Number 5, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 5, Amendment Number 5, Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Temporary Unemployment Benefit Number 3, Amendment Number 7,
Have the mic close.
Regulations 2021. The Public Treasury Administration and Payments, Supplemental Unemployment Benefit Amendment Regulations 2022. The Contributory Pensions Temporary Order 2021. The Public Service Superannuation Temporary Order 2021, the Economic Substance Amendment Regulations 2021, and the Economic Substance Amendment Number 2 Regulations 2021. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson. It was quite a number that you read, and you did very well. Item number 6 on our agenda is the notices of motion, and we have a notice from Senator Ariana Hudson, the Junior Minister for Finance. Senator Hudson, you can carry on.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I hereby present for the consideration of Senate the draft order entitled the Contributory Pensions Amendment of Benefits Order 2022, proposed to be made by the Minister of Finance under the provisions of Section 37 of the Contributory Pensions Act 1970, and I give notice that at a later point in the meeting, I will move that the said draft order be approved. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hudson. The next notice of motion is in the name of Senator Owen Darrell, the Junior Minister for the Cabinet Office. Senator Darrell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I hereby present for the consideration of Senate the draft order entitled the Tourism Investment Cambridge Beaches Resort and Spa Order 2022, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for tourism with the written agreement of the Minister of Finance under the provisions of Section 5 of the Tourism Investment Act 2017. And I give notice that at a later point in the meeting, I will move that the said draft order be approved.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. And the final motion is also in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson. You have the floor, Junior Minister for Health.
Thank you, Madam President. I hereby present for the consideration of Senate the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 5 Order 2022, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949. And I give notice that at a later point in this meeting, I will move that the said draft order be approved.
Thank you, Senator Hudson. Item number 7, petitions. There are none. Item number 8, statements. We have one statement, and that is in the name of Senator Owen Darrell, the Junior Minister for Education. Senator Darrell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, it is really important to recognize and celebrate young people, to celebrate their achievements and potential, and encourage their ongoing and future contributions to Bermuda. Today, I ask that my fellow senators join me in commending the recipients of the numerous scholarships and awards provided by the Ministry of Education. Through our mandate to support continuing education, the ministry funds scholarships and awards and will help over 65 additional students to attend college and university. There are 9 scholarships and award categories provided by the Ministry of Education, in addition to those granted through the College Promise program administered by the Bermuda College. Of these offerings, our most well-known scholarship, the Bermuda Government Scholarship was first awarded 100 years ago, when access to the college and university education was the purview of very few. Madam President, while there is still much more to be done, significant investments continue to be made by the government of Bermuda. The private sector, community organizations, and charitable individuals to help increase equitable access to further and higher education for Bermuda's current and aspiring students. As the Junior Minister for Education, I am proud to be here today and announce that despite these challenges and these challenging economic times, our scholarships and awards budget has steadily increased to the $1.4 million that we see today. This represents a significant increase over the previous government scholarships and awards allocations, which saw one award budget allocation go down to as low as $40,000. Today, that same award category is now at $500,000. The current budget of $1.4 million for scholarship and awards, combined with the $300,000 financial aid grant to the Bermuda College and the College Promise Program for Cedar Bridge and Berkeley Institute students, brings the allocation for students seeking funding for education close to $2 million annually. This is a $1 million increase in funding for our students since the Progressive Labor Party returned in 2017. Madam President, historically, many scholarships, especially those of high financial value, were targeted towards students who demonstrated academic excellence, regardless of financial need or other barriers to success. We applaud students who are at the very top of their class in their schools and areas of study. We also recognize that people have inherent gifts and talents, and that many who have passions and interests require financial help to pursue their dreams of university, college, or other types of career training. Therefore, aside from the Bermuda Government Scholarship, which is established by statute, every other scholarship and awards category includes financial need as a criterion. This is to ensure that most of all funds are distributed to persons whose potential might not be fully realized without financial help to pursue education and training beyond secondary school. Madam President, in addition to the College Promise Program, the ministry grants the following scholarships and awards annually. First, the Minister's Achievement Scholarship to help high-achieving graduating students of the Cedar Bridge Academy and the Berkeley Institute to attend overseas post-secondary education. 2, the Minister's Exceptional Student Award for graduating students or school leavers with disabilities for local or overseas post-secondary study. 3, the Minister's Technical and Vocational Award for graduating public school students or recent public school alumni attending Bermuda College for local or overseas post-secondary study. 4, the Minister's Applied Science Scholarship for graduating public senior school students who attend the Applied Technology Dual Enrollment Diploma Program with the Bermuda College and who plan to continue the program to obtain an associate's degree or certificate. 5, the Further Education Award for current college or university students with sophomore standing for continued post-secondary study. 6, the Non-Traditional Student Award for persons aged 25 and over pursuing post-secondary study. 7, the Teacher Education Scholarship for current college or university students with sophomore standing for study of selected subjects or areas of teaching needed in the Bermuda public school system. 8, the Bermuda Government Scholarship for well-rounded senior education, school or college university students up to the age of 25 who demonstrate outstanding academic achievement. And 9, the Bermuda College Book Award provides funding for books for the Bermuda College students in financial need. Madam President, in total, over 65 individual students are among our worthy recipients, ranging from recent senior school graduates to those pursuing non-traditional pathways. I would like to highlight many of those students in a number of categories, beginning with the Minister's Scholarships. The Minister's Scholarships and Award are valued at $5,000 for local studies and up to $25,000 for overseas studies. They are tenable for the duration of the student's full-time post-secondary program of study for up to 4 years. I am heartened to share that these recipients are D'Angele Simons, who will attend Keele University in England to pursue a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Science. Ms. Simons was a recent graduate of Cedar Bridge Academy, where she was the deputy head girl. Nyasia Burgess, who will attend North Carolina A&T University to pursue a Bachelor of Animal Science majoring in biology. Ms. Burgess graduated from the Berkeley Institute in June, where she was the head girl. Isaiah Tucker. So those two were the Ministerial Achievement Scholarship, $25,000 a year. The following is for the Minister's Exceptional Student Award. Isaiah Tucker, who graduated from the Bermuda College Culinary Arts program in May and is an alumnus of the Berkeley Institute. He will attend Humber Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning, Ontario, to pursue a diploma in nutrition and healthy lifestyle promotion. For the Minister's Technical and Vocational Award, it's Ronia Jones, who graduated from the Bermuda College with an associate degree in science, pre-health, in May of this year. She is an alumni of the Berkeley Institute and will enter Winston-Salem University in the United States with advanced standing. For the Minister's Applied Science Scholarship, Aaron Claude White, who graduated from Cedar Bridge Academy in June. He was a dual enrollment student and will continue his studies through the Associate of Applied Science Plumbing Technology program at the Bermuda College. Other recipients that I'm proud to share with the Senate are the following. The Non-Traditional Student Award is to Ms. Akila Hendrickson, an alumni of the Bermuda College, and she will attend the University of Wolverhampton in England to pursue a Bachelor of Science degree in mental health. Ms. Amber Douglas is current student at Ryerson University in Canada, pursuing a Bachelor of Human Resource Management degree. In 2021, she graduated with an Associate of Arts degree in Business Administration from the Bermuda College, and in 2019, received the Certificate of Human Resource Management and General Management. For the Teacher Education Scholarships, Ms. Malay Robinson, who will enter Keene University to pursue a major in English, K-12 teacher education. She is a graduate of 2020 from the Berkeley Institute, where she was head girl. She graduated from the Bermuda College in May of this year, receiving an associate's degree. Ms. Tamara Simmons, who is an alumni of the Cedar Bridge Academy and the Bermuda College, where she received an Associate of Science degree in education. She will complete a postgraduate certification in education in England before undertaking studies towards becoming a special education teacher. And Aliyah Lee, an alumni of the Berkeley Institute and the Bermuda College, graduated with an Associate of Arts degree. She will attend Keene University to become a teacher of Spanish. These teacher education scholarships are given to candidates pursuing initial teacher training who, as a condition of their scholarship, will be employed in the public schools to educate and support public school students in subject teaching areas of great need to the public education system. Madam President, the ministry awarded a total of 50 further education awards, including 10 awards for students pursuing graduate studies. While further education awards and other scholarships and awards are primarily given to students pursuing undergraduate study to assist persons obtaining first college or university degree, the ministry is doing what it can to support students undertaking graduate studies. These awards will provide funding for 1 year of study at a value up to $10,000. Time does not permit me to name each of the 50 recipients, but they too are saluted for their perseverance towards the completion of their undergraduate and graduate degrees. Madam President, the Bermuda Scholarships are awarded annually to the most deserving candidates recommended by the Board of Education. Each Bermuda government scholarship recipient receives funding towards the cost of tuition and accommodation up to $35,000 a year for 4 years. I am pleased to share with the fellow senators that this year's recipients of the Bermuda government scholarships are as follows. Jazzy Riley, a 2022 graduate of Soltis Grammar School, will attend the University of Central Florida in the United States to pursue a Bachelor of Actuarial Science degree. She was a prefect and recipient winner of the Denton Hurdle Award. And Giovanni Hollis is pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering at the Northeastern University in Boston, where he was on the Dean's List and participated in several leadership experiences with various companies in the United States. He graduated from Work Academy. Finally, the Bermuda College Book Awards, valued at $500 each, are determined by the Bermuda College closer to the start of the academic year. Madam President, I'd like to thank the chairpersons for the Minister's Scholarships and Awards Committee, the Board of Education Scholarship Committee, and the scholarships and awards teams within the Ministry of Education headquarters. The time that the chairpersons and other committee members spend on this critical work is generously donated because they care deeply about young people and their educational and social development. Before closing, I would like to thank our recipients and other applications for continuing to push forward through these difficult times. I encourage them to continue working towards their dreams and aspirations. We should all be proud of the work that is being undertaken to invest in Bermuda and her people. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrell, Junior Minister for Education. Item number 9 on our order, introduction of bills. There are none. Item number 10, the first reading of public bills. The following public bills have been received from the Honorable House of Assembly and are now read for the first time. Their titles are respectively the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022, the Banks and Deposit Companies Amendment Act 2022, the Domestic Partnership Amendment Act 2022, and the Quarantine Amendment Act 2022. And these bills will be taken up later in the meeting. Item number 11, first reading of private bills. There are none. Item number 12, question and question period. Before we entertain questions from the statement, I just would like to report here that written answers to the parliamentary questions from Senator Robin Tucker at the last meeting, as well as written answers to parliamentary questions from Senator Ben Smith, opposition leader in the Senate, as well as written answers to parliamentary questions from Senator Douglas Dakuta. They have been provided, and I just want to ensure that you have received them. Thank you. Yes. Oh, and I beg your pardon. I've just been reminded that there was an additional question that was asked, that one of the questions that wasn't responded to, and perhaps Senator Hudson would like to indicate.
Yes, I just did want to notify the Senate that.
Can you speak up? I don't think.
Sorry, the
Thank
second
you.
question that was posed by Senator Dakuto is actually one that we cannot provide an answer to at this time, as per Standing Order 65-4F. And so I just wanted to provide that clarity.
Thank you. Thank you, 65-4F. Now we will entertain questions to the statement that was just read by the Junior Minister of Education, Senator Ben Smith. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to thank the Junior Minister for his statement this morning and take this opportunity to congratulate everyone who was a recipient of one of these awards. Obviously, when people are seeking further education and they need to have funding to pursue this education, having a scholarship available to them is a very important step to get them to their future endeavors. So congratulations to all the people that were able to receive it. But I just have a couple of questions because obviously for the people that have received it, that's great news. But for people that potentially have applied and they came up a little short, they would also be looking for an opportunity to further their education. So if the junior minister can let us know how many students in total applied for scholarships in this year, and how many of those were not successful, just so that we can have an idea of how many people were trying to pursue a scholarship so that they could pay for further education, but were unable to receive that. My second question is, out of the close to $2 million that was provided, was all of the funding actually allocated, or is there some that is still available just in case there are other, maybe an opportunity to give to one of these people that fell short? My final question is just on kind of the data that gets collected from this process that happens every year. So if we have an understanding of how many students are applying every year with a need to actually have further finances, if the junior minister can let us know if we are collecting the data to know how many students are in this position and what the actual amount that is needed, so that we know what the shortfall is between the 2 million and potentially what is actually needed, so that we can have our students be able to further their education, because that is exactly what this country needs, is for those students to be educated and come back and be part of our country. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Would any other senator? Senator Michelle Simmons? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Senator Darrell, for bringing this ministerial statement. It really is a high point in the academic school year to see so many deserving students receiving support to continue their education at the tertiary level. I would just like to say, before I ask my questions, that it's also very gratifying to see that it's students who may not be able to pursue their dreams because of financial circumstances who are given consideration in some of the newer awards which the ministry has put together. So well done to the Ministry of Education, and a hearty congratulations to every student who's received an award. And these students range in age from, I believe, 18 up to 25 years old. So it's good to see that even that, i.e. age, is being taken into consideration. My first question is about the teacher education scholarship holders. I didn't see anything in the statement referring to how long those scholarship awardees would have to serve in the public school system after receiving their scholarships. I know what used to exist in the past, but I just wondered if the junior minister could inform us of the requirements for those scholarship awardees to serve in the public school system once they are appropriately qualified. Secondly, I have a question which has to do with, and it's similar to Senator Ben Smith's question, about the number of people applying for these scholarships. Because I remember several years ago, some of these scholarships, the ones that existed then, it was a challenge to actually get some students to apply. And I think it may have been because they didn't feel they had a chance at getting the scholarship. And of course, there was a lot of work associated with applying for such scholarships. So are there any scholarships which have not been allocated? Because I think it's important for us to get a broad picture of how these awards are being handled from the beginning of the application process right through to the end. So a bit more data would be very, very helpful. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons, Vice President. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Robin Tucker, you have questions?
Thank you, Madam President. I join with my Senate colleagues and say congratulations to all the awardees. I think it's fantastic that we are able to assist people, or that the government is able to assist people in their academic pursuits. I will say that I was one. I was a recipient of the Mature Student Award some time ago. I'll put it that way. I was a mature student for sure. But I do have a question from a little bit of a different direction, I guess. I would like to know if the students who are awarded scholarships, whether if they do not graduate, are they required to repay the funds? And the second question that I have is whether there's anything that has been built onto the scholarship award process in terms of whether students who are awarded the scholarships are also kept in touch with and perhaps mentored by individuals who may share the expertise, I guess, that the student is studying for. I'm just looking to find out whether government has added anything onto the scholarship award by way of providing any kind of practical support as well as financial. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker. Well, Senator Darrow, you have quite a number of questions, so it's now over to you. How you respond?
The answers might be as long as my statement, Madam President. So, guys, get your calculators out, this one. Madam President, happy to provide answers for all of the questions that have been asked this morning. First I would start with Senator Smith from the opposition asked how many total applications were received for these scholarships. And I'm going to break it down. For the Bermuda scholarship applications, and I'll also give a comparison for some. So this year, for the Bermuda government scholarship, we received 199 applications. Last year, we received 230 applications for that award. So that's a comparison. It was down a little bit this year. For the traditional student award, this year we received 15 applications. Last year we received 27. This year for the Further Education Award, we received 129 applicants. And last year we received 163. Further Education Postgraduate Award, we received 25 applications this year. And last year we didn't receive any because that award did not exist. Teacher Education Scholarships, this year we got 12 applications compared to 11 last year. The Minister's Achievement Scholarship, 41 applicants. Last year there were 51. The Minister's Exceptional Student Award, this year was 15. Last year was 20. The Minister's Applied Science Scholarship, this year were 2 applicants. Last year were 2 applicants as well. And the Minister's Technical and Vocational Award, there were 20 applicants this year and 13 this year. So I did do the math, but I put some wrong numbers in there too, so I won't say. There was some significant hundreds of applicants for these awards. And And to ask the question afterwards, there is an audit that is done of these awards, and money is issued to individuals who are unsuccessful once the audit is done. And what that means is that there were some individuals that will decline the scholarships and say they got a different one. You know, in the private sector, some scholarships come with a caveat that if you get another, you cannot receive two. So they may give it back, and an audit is done, and they distribute them to individuals who were unsuccessful. And all we can do is the people who apply for our awards, and we try to see if we can get additional funds elsewhere if we can. Now you say, what happens to the shortfall? The one Bermuda Alliance Howard Scholarship? No, there are private organizations, and to Senator Simmons' question, there are private organizations that have more subscripted, yes, scholarships than the Bermuda government. We don't have any scholarship that no one applied for. However, there are, as you would know, many, and I remember this as when I was an educator, people from the scholarship committee in the private sector would come in often, and they would have a big book of scholarships, and they would actually highlight the ones that people did not apply for whatever reason. Senator Smith, you asked, what do we do if there's shortfall? How can we do it? We also we've put the College Promise Award in place. So sometimes individuals that can't go where they want to go right away may be able to take advantage of other schooling at the Bermuda College for free. There's 7 students participating in the College Promise program. The Teacher Education Scholarship, in answer to Senator Simmons' question, there is 3 years minimum. So you must do 3 years. So it's still that requirement. And if they leave previously or decide not to, they have to pay back the full amount that they received. And Senator Tucker, unfortunately, the requirement that is in place for the Teacher Education Scholarship does not exist for students who do not finish. So there's no requirement to repay except for the teacher award. Students must send their grades in and expenses to the Ministry of Education on a regular basis in order to remain eligible. So maybe that's something that we can look into with workforce development. And we'll look at suggestions as a way forward for the question that you asked. But as of now, is you just have to submit grades and the like to remain eligible. But if you don't graduate, there is no requirement to repay. I think that's all the questions, Madam President.
Senator Ben Smith, you have a supplement.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to the Junior Minister for those responses. I think that a question by Senator Michelle Simmons and myself, I'm going to combine the two for my supplementary, because I think what I was looking for is, if we're collecting that data and we have an understanding that there is a need, and then I believe, as the Junior Minister mentioned, in the private sector, there's a bunch of scholarships that are going unused. If we were able to connect those dots and say, okay, this is the amount of money that is available from the private sector, communicate with the private sector that this is what is actually being applied for here, and maybe change some of the criteria going each way so that we can cover these students that need these scholarships. So for me, it's collecting the data and then communicating with the private sector to say, how do we fix a situation that's been going on for a really long time? They have the finances, but their scholarships are going unused. The government has the need. They're showing the students that are doing the work to go through the process, through the application, and they're going without having the scholarship that they actually are looking for. So I'm just hoping that that is a suggestion for me, that we could try to connect those two dots so that we can connect the need with the resources that are being unused. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. Ben Smith.
I'm made to understand, Madam President, and that workforce development actually does put on a workshop for private sector scholarships.
Mhm.
So some of that is being done, but I'm sure we can take a look and see what more can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. Senator Robin Tucker, you have a supplementary.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam President. I'm not quite sure how this is going to come across and connect these dots, but I'm interested to know whether government has any data concerning the number of students that have not, that were awarded but have not graduated, and what that amount actually is of funds that were awarded but not realized by way of the student actually graduating. So even within like the last 5 years. Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the ministry at this point collects graduation stats. Yeah, I mean, if you're in year 4 and you get your scholarship for year 4, I don't think at this time I get what you're saying. We can look into that.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that the reason I asked that question is because in my line of work, every organization that I've worked in has at least a benchmark that is required that we use to track students who have received organizational scholarships. And certainly, we would track whether they've graduated or not. And we do have built in that students that don't graduate, that there would be a requirement to repay those funds. So I just thought that workforce development or the Ministry of Education would have had that information. But thank you, I understand.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker, and thank you, Senator Darrell, for answering the questions that were presented. Moving on with our agenda now, we come to item number 13, the orders of the day. And the first order of the day is the second reading of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Act 2022, and that is in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, the Junior Minister for Finance. Senator Hudson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. You can carry on.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the purpose of the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Act 2022 is to amend the principal objects of the Bermuda Monetary Authority to provide for an object to cover matters related to conduct of business by financial institutions. Madam President, the authority is the independent regulator of the financial services sector in Bermuda. The authority operates pursuant to the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969, which provides it with a number of principal objects, including the supervision, regulation, and inspection of financial institutions operating in or from within Bermuda. Madam President, the licensing and supervisory process is prescribed by law and supplemented by subsidiary legislation, guidance notes, and statements of principles, together with codes of conduct and/or codes of practice. These detail relevant aspects of supervision, including the classes of license based on the nature, business model, and related risk, reporting requirements, statutory financial statement filings, as well as vetting of controllers and shareholders. Madam President, the authority is authorized to act as advisor to the Minister of Finance on policy matters relating to any financial institution and on monetary or financial matters generally. Accordingly, the authority may propose laws where it can do so appropriately and consistently with its functions under the Act. Madam President, in 2020, the authority undertook an internal review of its objectives and statutory mandate. As a result of this review, the authority submitted a proposal to the Ministry of Finance regarding a risk-based regulatory framework to enhance consumer protection for users of regulated financial services in Bermuda. Since then, there has been ongoing work to progress matters in this area. Madam President, the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969 does not provide the authority with a specific power to enforce consumer protection. However, certain regulatory acts include elements of conduct requirements, which are then addressed in sector-specific codes of conduct or practice issued by the authority as follows: integrity and skill, fair dealing, disclosures, conflicts of interest, complaints handling, client relationships, and client asset protection. Further, Madam President, the authority has advised the Ministry of Finance that although certain acts do make explicit reference to the authority's role in protecting clients and potential clients of registrants, the existing codes are concerned with preventing breaches of law. Madam President, Section 3 of the Act sets down the principal objects of the authority. Section 3.1 authorizes the authority to supervise, regulate, and inspect any financial institution which operates in and from within Bermuda. Madam President, notwithstanding the generality of this provision, the authority takes the view that its objects ought to be amended to specifically include an object that covers matters related to the promotion and protection of customers, using products and services provided by financial institutions to reinforce its work to allow for greater focus on fair outcomes for customers. Madam President, to support the revised conduct framework, the authority has reviewed and revised, developed and consulted on conduct of business codes for the following sectors: banking sector conduct of business codes of conduct. Madam President, draft conduct of business codes were published in September 2021. However, the proposal requires amendments to the Banks and Deposits Companies Act 1999 to grant the authority a power to make codes, and the work in this regard is being progressed. Insurance sector conduct of business codes of conduct. Madam President, draft conduct of business codes were also published in September 2021. The proposal does not require any amendments to be made to the Insurance Act 1978. Section 2BA of the Insurance Act 1978 grants the authority a power to make codes of conduct on the duties, requirements, and standards to be complied with by registered persons and designated insurers, and the procedures and sound principles to be observed by such persons and designated insurers. Digital asset business conduct of business codes of conduct. Madam President, the authority has advised that the consultation period regarding conduct of business codes for the digital asset business sector will commence shortly. Madam President, the effective date for the codes will be determined after the bill is enacted. Madam President, as per the authority's normal custom and practice, the relevant consultation papers related to these proposals can be found on the authority's website at www.bma.bm under the Market Conduct link. Madam President, by way of background, the Senate is advised that adjustments have been made to the authority's objects over time to expressly provide for certain matters as per the sample list set out below. An express object covering the detection and prevention of financial crime was put in place in 2002. An express object related to AML/ATF responsibilities was put in place in 2007. An express object covering international cooperation was put in place in 2008. And an express object covering an innovation hub was put in place in 2019. Madam President, this proposed change will be yet another positive development in the ongoing evolution of the authority's work and role as a strong, innovative, and well-regarded regulator. I would like to thank all of those persons within the authority, the Attorney General's chambers, the Ministry of Finance, and the private sector who have all assisted with the development of this bill. Madam President, the House has advised that the customer-facing component will be addressed through a fit-for-purpose regime, which will come under aegis of the Consumer Affairs Department. Madam President, the authority does not seek to resolve individual complaints, but will ensure that the financial institutions have the appropriate policies, processes, and internal structures to treat their customers fairly, as well as a robust complaint handling mechanism. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister for Finance. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator DeCuto, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator, for introducing that act. It clearly has a good intentions and good objectives and is not out of line with things happening around the world. And if I'm correct, I believe it will work together with some of the things we'll talk about later today. I did have two comments. You did mention the digital asset business. I certainly look forward to codes for that area of business coming into play. I think at best we could say right now that area of business is a Wild West. It will be very important for Bermuda as a jurisdiction to set itself apart from the rest of the world and how it handles that business so that we can get the best benefit from it without tarnishing our hard-earned reputation thanks to the work of the BMA and prior governments of various stripes. My other comment is having worked professionally in areas impacted by this is these codes can be onerous and have many negative effects on how companies operate if they're not handled well. By that, I don't mean, oh, they just get in the way of the companies. I mean, depending on how the regulator deals with the companies in the monitoring and executing of these codes, they may not actually achieve their ends, but they may just put a drag on business. That's been seen in some jurisdictions. And I would say that a deft and experienced touch is going to be required by the regulators, the BMA. I'm sure that they're up to it, and I think that their approach to how they operate has been proven to be very successful for Bermuda and internationally, and I look forward to them doing a good job with this to the benefit of Bermudians and the businesses that operate in Bermuda. Thank you, Madam Senator.
Thank you,
Madam
Senator.
President.
Thank you, Senator Takutu. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none, then Senator Ariana Hudson, is back to you.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect of this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Act 2022 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022 do now pass. No, sorry, I beg your pardon. That's the one I've been given. I beg your pardon. The Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Act 2022 is now passed. Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson. Senators. We'll now move on to the second item, and that is the second reading of the Criminal Code Amendment the Criminal Code Amendment Act 2022, and that is in the name of Senator the Honorable Dr. E.G.V. Peets, spokesman for legal affairs and also government leader in the Senate. Minister Peets, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled Criminal Code Amendment Act 2022 now be read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Madam President, with your permission, I'm pleased to advance the bill entitled Criminal Code Amendment Act 2022. This bill seeks to repeal the temporary or the sunset clause provision in the Criminal Code Amendment Act 2012, which inserted the criminal offense of instructing a person to participate in unlawful gang activity, and instituted increased sentences for offenses where unlawful gang activity is a feature of the criminal activity into the Criminal Code 1907. For a limited period of time, the 2012 measures were modeled on the Canadian anti-gang legislation enacted in 2009. Madam President, the 2012 Act prescribes as follows. There is Section 33A, criminalized instructing a gang member to commit an offense. There's also Section 70JA, defined unlawful gang and unlawful gang activity, and Section 70JB provides the court with the power to increase a sentence on conviction where the offense is connected to or arises from unlawful gang activity. This amendment bill seeks to repeal the temporary or sunset clause provisions in the 2012 Act, thereby permanently codifying Sections 33A, 70JA, and 70JB into the Criminal Code of 1907. These now indispensable sunset provisions have been kept in operation via statutory instruments published in the Official Gazette, extending their effect since July of 2012. Madam President, members and the public at large are agonizingly aware of the unprecedented scourge of gang-related criminal activity which has come to light in Bermuda society. Looking back to when the 2012 Act first became law, Bermuda society was gripped for the first time in its history with increases in violent crime demonstrating the hallmarks of criminal organization into groups were verily called gangs. In 2012, the PLP government and police were cautious based on pervasive public attitudes to give credibility to the fledgling groups demonstrating gang-like behaviors and organization. As the provisions and the gang phenomena were unprecedented at that time of enactment, legislators supported the employing temporarily enactment via a sunset clause to run in conjunction with other gang curtailment policy and policing measures. In fact, Madam President, the tenor of the parliamentary debate in 2012 focused on a shared hope that future generations of young people could be spared from being enticed into unlawful gangs and from participating in unlawful gang activity. For that, it was not envisioned that these provisions would be needed some 10 years later. Madam President, that same hope and prayers over our youth remain as alive today as it did in 2012. But we must also take collective, societal, legislative, and policy action using all the tools across the continuum of prevention, deterrence, effective punishments, rehabilitation, and restitution to protect the peace and order in our community. Madam President, recently the Honorable Minister of National Security presented a comprehensive update on the initiatives and actions taken across government to tackle unlawful gang activity and antisocial behavior. This government continues to commit resources, programs, and best efforts to dampen crime and gang-related activities. Bermuda is not unique in the fight against unlawful gang activity. Our geographical isolation and small size no longer buffers us from the global influences across media, entertainment, and social media platforms which glorify violence and criminality. With that backdrop, Madam President, we come to this moment in time which regrettably requires us as legislators to consider the intractability of gang-related crime in Bermuda. Despite sustained policing efforts and inventive government-wide policies to dissuade young people from joining unlawful gangs and participating in unlawful conduct, put starkly, the real-life consequences of gang membership and activity include physical and sexual abuse and the exploitation of others, exposure to illicit drugs, alcohol, isolation from family, difficulty in securing employment, imprisonment, and even death at the hands of others who wish violence. Madam President, I anticipate the debate will touch on all of the nuance, including the complexities of gang and crime issues that we all live with and live under, including criticism of the government response to it. This government remains open to considering all viable suggestions, no matter where they originate, to aid in the collective solutions to gang problems. As I stated in this bill, as relates to the statement, the criminal code must contain appropriate offenses to match criminal activity known to exist in society, with crime and punishment being effective and dissuasive. These gang-specific provisions widen the tools available to police, prosecutors, and the courts to bring offenders of crime-related offenses to justice. They give the courts adequate powers to ensure sentencing reflects the seriousness and the extent of the offending. In doing so, it shows that society denounces the unlawful conduct in question and demands that offenders are removed from society based on the severity of the offense committed. This is necessary to maintain a just, peaceful, and safe society. Madam President, this bill before us, in its purest sense, is a piece of legislative housekeeping. I bring this bill with full support of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Commissioner of Police, who have each indicated the continuing need for these provisions to be codified as a deterrent for unlawful gang activity. I can report that there are 2 indictments before the courts where offenses from 2012 Act have been charged and/or will be subject to the aggravating sentencing for gang-related criminality. This highlights the real-time need for statutory provisions of this bill to be made permanent, as recent, alarming public execution-style shootings make their way through the judicial system between July 10th of 2012 and January 30th of 2022. There were 186 confirmed firearm incidents, all linked to gang-related activity. Madam President, magistrates, judges, prosecutors, and defense counsel are fully competent with navigating all of the evidential requirements necessary to prove the existence of gang-related activity in the circumstances of each case. This may include the use of expert testimony, cell site analysis, forensic and ballistic evidence, CCTV footage, police body camera footage, etc. It is not said with any pride that the Bermuda case of Myers versus UKPC 40, the Privy Council issued guidance on the admissibility of evidence relating to gangs, their existence, their territories, feuds, allegiances, and members, affiliations, and their activities. The opinion of the Privy Council has proved useful for English and Welsh prosecutors and courts when analyzing admissibility of evidence under their own gang laws. Madam President, as you can imagine, many questions have been posed about the gang issue in Bermuda. One that comes to mind is whether the additional penalties imposed by the 2012 Act have worked. Well, this is difficult to ascertain from the recorded indictments alone. The dissuasive effect of criminal sanctions is exceedingly difficult to assess based purely on whether or not the crimes have been charged or successful prosecutions have ensued. The myriad of factors at play suggests, at least anecdotally, that without these provisions, we would send the message that, as a society, we don't take gang-related crime and punishment seriously. One can question whether the prescribed penalties are tough enough, but keep in mind that these provisions prescribed additional penalties in a similar way as found in the Misuse of Drugs Act, but the underlying offense may already be subject to harsh and severe terms of imprisonment. In some instances, the penalty is already the maximum life sentence. For instance, in firearms-related murder cases where the mandatory sentence is life imprisonment. Ultimately, the question arises as to whether these deterrents are effective at all. Criminal law policy making is predicted upon the notion that penalties benefiting the crime consistently enforced along with other measures to discourage criminal behavior will yield positive results. Hence, there are prevention, rehabilitation, and treatment programs in place in tandem with these criminal law enforcement measures to achieve the desired results overall. Madam President, in 2012, provisions remain temporarily in force as a necessary tool against the scourge of gang violence. They send an unmistakable message that brazen criminal acts of coordinated, premeditated discharge of firearms in successful and unsuccessful attempts to take life will not be tolerated. Neither will other unlawful gang activities. Therefore, dispensing with the bill's offenses and increased penalties would remove a vital tool needed to counteract any escalation. Madam President, now 10 years since the enactment of the 2012 Act, it is overdue to legislate for its permanent codification. Accordingly, this bill quite straightforwardly asks us to consider removing the sunset clause from 2012 Act so as to make those provisions permanent in the Criminal Code Act 1907. Madam President, I dare say that public outcry demands severe punishment for criminality centered on gang activity, and we are continually being challenged to use every means at our disposal to eradicate criminal gangs, gang violence, and criminal gang activity. The permanent enactment of these provisions is another answer to that call. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Minister Peets, spokesperson on legal affairs in the Senate. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Ben Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the minister for his thorough statement. I think everybody in Bermuda would agree right now that the gang violence has continued to be a real problem throughout our society, and it is touching everyone in every part of our community. When somebody Googles Bermuda, we show up on a violent place to be because we have a small population size, which means that our murder to population rate is high. That is the opposite of who we are as a people. So a small portion of our population is impacting the whole. And when you have that, it's a shame, but that's really how society works. We have to put in stronger restrictions and stronger punishments, not for the majority. It's for the group that even today is not listening to the statistics and the words that came from Minister Peets. It's the group that has continued to just ignore what is happening to the rest of the country. Their self-centered behavior to not only create a violent criminal activity throughout our country, but to encourage young people to be part of that. The fact that we have children in primary, middle, and secondary school that are being recruited into these gangs, and we are seeing the result of the violent acts that are happening, but understand that those violent acts are also creating an environment that makes more young people feel that they have to be part of a gang to protect themselves. That's the shame of it. Like it's increasing that because of this behavior. So what we have is a situation where we have to look at our policing, we have to look at what we're doing in our courts, we have to look at what we're doing in our families, but we're also going to have to look at what we're doing in our schools to make sure that all of us together are doing everything we can to turn this tide. Yes, this is a step in that direction. I'm hoping that we'll see more legislation that will make it even more restrictive for people that are behaving in the way that they are. Connecting not just the perpetrator, but the people that are protecting the perpetrator. Because we cannot continue to have a small society like us that is being ravaged by an even smaller portion of our population. That behavior can no longer be accepted. So the minister stated that there's 2 occasions in the last 2 years, 10 years that they've been able to use this particular legislation. We support any tool that can be given to the courts to help us in this battle. And we're looking forward to see more that will help us in any way to not only prevent the next crime, but also prevent the next young person from being enticed into this lifestyle. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith, opposition leader in the Senate. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe that when the original amendment to the criminal code was passed in 2012, the whole community was hoping that this would help us to see a reduction in gang activity, and most especially gang violence and the recruitment of young people into gangs. Unfortunately, just as Minister Peets has said and Senator Ben Smith has reiterated, we haven't seen this. Gang activity is still, unfortunately, I don't want to say cornerstone, but it's become part of our community and it's impacting on everyone. But the people most impacted are families. And so, in my opinion, that's where the attention needs to be at the very, very beginning. Until we get it right within our families, we will continue to see young people recruited into gangs. So while this legislation is only about the punishment aspect of the gang activity that's going on within the community, and it's trying to ensure that those who are involved in gang activity recognize that there are serious life-altering consequences for their actions. Until we get our families right, we are not going to see the improvement that we need to see. So, in my opinion, it's a sad day that we have to suspend the sunset clause in this legislation, but it has to be done. And therefore, I don't think we have any choice but to support this bill. So, Madam President, I just once again urge our families to take charge of their children. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons, Vice President in the Senate. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none, then Minister Peets, it's over to you.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senators, for your comments. I certainly concur with your sentiments as well as direction. Madam President, I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect to this bill.
Second reading first, yeah.
Thank you. I move that the bill entitled the Criminal Code Amendment Act 2022 now be read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect to this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Criminal Code Amendment Act 2022 now be read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Madam President, I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Criminal Code Amendment Act 2022 do now pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Minister Peets, and all senators who have spoken. We'll now move on to the third item on our agenda, and that is the items that may be considered under provisions Standing Order 25 or the suspension of Standing Order 71 too. And this is the second reading of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 22, and that is in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson. She's just stepped up. We'll give her a few minutes. Yes, right. Yeah, okay. Because the minister wanted, oh, here she is. Yes. Yeah.
Madam President, I move that the provisions of Standing Order 25 be granted so that the Senate may now proceed with the second readings of the public bills entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022, the Banks and Deposit Companies Amendment Act 2022, the Domestic Partnership Amendment Act 2022, and the Quarantine Amendment Act 2022.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I am pleased to present the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022. The purpose of the bill is to provide for the following: to update certain provisions under the third schedule of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969, to primarily correct fees incorrectly stated under certain headings of the fourth schedule of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969, and to make consequential amendments to the Banks and Deposits Companies Fees Act 1975 to correct an annual fee incorrectly stated under Part 1 of the second schedule. Madam President, by way of background, the Bermuda Monetary Authority undertook a comprehensive review of its target operating model together with its fee structure in 2018. At the end of the review process, which culminated with a comprehensive stakeholder consultation process, the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment No. 3 Act 2018, which contained the fee schedules for the years 2019, 2020, and 2021, was passed by the legislature. Madam President, in 2021, the fourth schedule of the Act 1969 was repealed and replaced with a consolidated fee schedule, and the reference to individual fee schedules by year was removed. A similar exercise was also completed in relation to the Banks and Deposits Company Fees Act 1975. Madam President, Section 20A of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969 provides that every person, body, or entity specified in the third schedule operating in or from within Bermuda shall be subject under this act or the regulations made thereunder to supervision, regulation, and inspection by the authority. As noted above, it is proposed to amend the third schedule to the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969 to update certain provisions. Madam President, it is proposed to update the third schedule of the Act by making the reference to investment business similar to the manner in which other financial institutions are referenced in the schedule. The existing provision reads an investment provider licensed under the Investment Business Act 2003, and the proposal is an investment provider as defined in Section 2 of the Investment Business Act 2003. Madam President, members will recall that the Fund Administration Provider Business Act was enacted in 2019. The Fund Administration Provider Business Act 2019 sets down a framework for fund administration business. Madam President, prior to the enactment of the Fund Administration Provider Business Act 2019, matters related to fund administration businesses were set out under the Investment Funds Act 2006. Members will recall that the Investment Funds Act 2006 now provides a supervisory framework for investment funds. Madam President, it is proposed to update the third schedule of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969 by reassigning the definition of the term Fund Administration Provider Business to the Fund Administration Provider Business Act 2019. Existing provision, fund administrators, as defined in Section 2 of the Investment Funds Act 2006, and the proposal, a fund administration provider business, is defined in Section 2 of the Fund Administration Provider Business Act 2019. Madam President, Section 20B of the Act provides that the fees prescribed in the fourth schedule of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969 shall be paid by certain financial institutions in accordance with the legislation specified in the various heads of the fourth schedule to the Bermuda Monetary Authority. As noted above, it is proposed to amend the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969 to correct fees incorrectly stated under certain headings of the fourth schedule. Madam President, the House is advised that the heads of the fourth schedule of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969, under which some minor changes to fees are proposed, are as follows. The Insurance Act 1978, the Proceeds of Crime, Anti-Money Laundering and Anti-Terrorist Financing, Supervision and Enforcement Act 2008, and the Digital Asset Business Act 2018. Madam President, a summary of the changes proposed in respect of the fees set out above is as follows. The relevant changes to the registration fee for Class 3A insurers carrying on runoff general business where gross reserves are less than $35 million and assets are less than $70 million shall be changed from $28,500 to $33,600. The registration fee for Class 3A insurers carrying on runoff general business where gross reserves are less than $100 million and assets are less than $200 million shall be changed from $33,600 to $38,760. The annual fee for insurance marketplace providers where the gross premiums are expected to exceed $5 million but not exceed $100 million shall be changed from $12,000 to $9,000. The annual fee for insurance marketplace providers where gross premiums are expected to exceed $100 million shall be changed from $15,000 to $11,500. The annual fee for collateralized insurance where assets held as collateral exceed $350 million but not exceed $2 billion shall be changed from $30,000 to $22,000. The annual fee for Class 2GB insurers, where gross premiums are expected to exceed 20 million but not exceed 35 million, shall be changed from 30,500 to 30,000. Madam President, as noted above, it is proposed to amend the fourth schedule to the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969 to primarily correct fees incorrectly stated under certain headings of the fourth schedule of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act 1969. In this case, the error appears in the endnote. Accordingly, it is proposed to delete the reference to 2021 in the endnote. Madam President, the relevant changes to be made in this area are as follows. Application fees. Madam President, the application fee payable by an entity seeking a Class T license pursuant to Section 12 of the Principal Act will be separately reflected as $1,000 to distinguish this fee from the fee of $2,266 payable. Also pursuant to Section 12 of the Principal Act by entities seeking a Class F license or a Class M license. Registration fees. Madam President, the 10 different subparagraphs within paragraph 2, which currently set out the fees payable by digital asset businesses upon the grant of a license pursuant to Section 16(1)(a) of the Principal Act, are to be rationalized into 4 subparagraphs, being subparagraphs A through D. This change is designed to achieve presentational simplicity and will not result in any entities being subject to a different fee than the one previously consulted upon. Annual fees. Madam President, consistent with the change to the registration fees, the presentation of the corresponding annual fees will be similarly rationalized. Accordingly, the 10 different subparagraphs within paragraphs 3, being subparagraphs A through I, which currently set out the annual fees payable by digital asset businesses pursuant to Section 16(1)(b) of the Principal Act, are to be rationalized into 4 subparagraphs, being subparagraphs A through D. Again, this change is designed to achieve drafting and presentational simplicity and will not result in any entities being subject to a different fee than the one previously consulted upon. Madam President, the annual fees for banks are set down in Part 1 of the second schedule to the Banks and Deposits Companies Fees Act 1975. As noted above, it is proposed to amend the second schedule to make consequential amendments to the Banks and Deposits Companies Fees Act 1975 to correct an annual fee incorrectly stated under Part 1 of the second schedule. Madam President, in furtherance of the above, it is proposed to amend the annual fee for banks holding consolidated gross assets exceeding $5 billion, but not exceeding $10 billion, to $1,772,680. The fee was changed to $1.25 million in error in 2021. Madam President, I wish to reiterate that the amendments will result in the establishment of fees that were the subject of previous engagement with industry. Furthermore, while it is important that these amendments be approved so that the relevant schedules are accurate and comprehensive, I wish to advise members that the number of institutions to which these specific amendments apply is very small, and the fees actually paid by them this year was in keeping with what had been previously consulted upon. Madam President, Clause 5 provides for the bill to come into operation on the 1st of January 2022 to align the effective date of the bill with the actual due date. Madam President, in closing, I would like to thank the Bermuda Monetary Authority, the Attorney General's Chambers, and the Ministry of Finance for their assistance with this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister of Finance. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator DeCuto, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator, for that introduction. Certainly, simplification and streamlining of the fees and the legislation is to be commended. I was a little disturbed that parts of this bill or this amendment are required to correct mistakes in the fee schedules. I certainly know that if a business was to submit information to the BMA with mistakes, that would be a hot topic of discussion. So I wonder how many more sorts of mistakes are in our bills. I wonder if the senator could perhaps comment on the reason for the mistakes in these bills, how many there are, because I think we need to understand the root causes. As we can all understand, Madam President, if we can't, one of the strengths of our system is the transparency, and that you can go and pull up the laws and read the written laws. It's really what differentiates our kind of system from, many of the others in the world that do not operate as well. And while I know that these are not intentional mistakes, you can understand the friction and stress that this will create for businesses not being able to have confidence, or people that they can read and interpret the law and take decision on that. So I'd appreciate some comments from the senator on that. But otherwise, this looks like an important thing to get done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jakutu. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none, then Senator Ariana Hudson is back to you. Does she have her? Senator Hudson, are you ready? Oh, she's waiting for an answer. There shouldn't be an issue. True enough. Yeah. Yes, Senator Hudson.
Yes, in response to Senator Jakuto's question, I would like to say that the fee schedules are very detailed and inherently complex. And with almost 400 different fee provisions spanning more than a dozen sectors, it is quite a bit of material to cover. I would say that in the process of repealing and replacing the fee schedules in place for 2021, there were unfortunately a small numbers of errors and omissions, but I would like to highlight that there were less than 10 errors that did occur, and so a relatively small number. And I would like, just for the knowledge of persons in here, I would like to say that companies actually did pay the correct fees in keeping with what had previously been consulted upon, and so hopefully the matters will be addressed today and we can move forward as needed.
Okay, so you can now continue to pass the bill. Second reading.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect of this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Amendment Number 2 Act 2022 do now pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Hudson and senators. We now move on to the next item on our agenda, and that is the second reading of the Banks and Deposit Companies Amendment Act 2022, and that is also in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister for Finance. When you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Banks and Deposits Companies Amendment Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the primary purpose of the Banks and Deposits Companies Amendment Act is to provide the Bermuda Monetary Authority with an express power to issue codes of conduct in relation to the manner in which an institution conducts deposit-taking business, and to allow for the regulation of banking fees similar to provisions that exist in other major countries. This is also seen as an important provision to enhance consumer protection in the sector. Madam President, Section 8.2 of the Banks and Deposit Companies Act 1999 requires the authority to keep under review the operation of the Act and developments in the field of deposit taking which appear to the authority to be relevant to the exercise of its powers and the discharge of its duties. Madam President, members are advised that the authority before this point did not have a specific power to enforce consumer protection. However, certain acts make explicit note of the authority's role in protecting the clients and potential clients of registrants. It is noted that the relevant provisions are primarily concerned with preventing breaches of law rather than focusing on fair outcomes for consumers specifically. Madam President, following discussions with the Ministry and relevant stakeholders, the Bermuda Monetary Authority proposes to expand its statutory remit to include protection for customers and the promotion of the fair treatment of financial services customers. The new regime is intended to build upon existing conduct requirements to create fairer outcomes for customers as they engage with the financial services marketplace. It is also proposed that the requirements will be based on the standards set down by the following: the International Organization of Securities Commissions, the International Association of Insurance Supervisors, the Bank for International Settlements, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, and the G20 High-Level Principles on Financial Consumer Protection. Madam President, the authority's proposed approach to the supervision of conduct of business has been encapsulated by 6 high-level principles as follows. The firm must ensure fair and equitable treatment of its customers. The firm must have continuing regard for the interest of its customers in the conduct of its business. The firm must ensure that communications with customers are fair, clear, and not misleading. The firm must ensure the protection of the customer's assets against loss, fraud, and misuse. The firm must handle complaints and errors in a manner that is fair and expedient. And where dealing with retail customers, the firm must ensure that individuals are aware of their responsibilities within the business relationship and have access to appropriate financial educational resources. Madam President, in furtherance of the above, the authority proposes to amend existing codes of practice and conduct for each regulated sector to specifically include conduct of business principles on a phased basis, starting with the banking and insurance sectors. The codes will cover matters related to duties, requirements, and standards to be complied with, and the procedures and principles to be observed by the persons licensed or registered under each act. There will be a requirement to amend the interpretation provisions under each act as a consequence of this proposal. Madam President, further to the above, there will be a requirement for the authority to publish draft codes. As well, the authority will be required to take into consideration any representations made to it about draft codes prior to finalization. Failure on the part of an institution to comply with the provisions of such code shall be taken into consideration by the authority in determining whether the business is being conducted in a prudent manner as required by the minimum criteria set for licensing. Similar provisions relating to codes have already been set down in Section 2BA of the Insurance Act 1978. Madam President, Section 39(1)A of the Act gives the authority a power to obtain information and reports from a licensed institution. It is proposed to repeal Section 39(1)A by replacing it with a provision that expands the authority's powers to obtain information and reports regarding a code of conduct and the implementation of such code from a licensed institution. It is also proposed to amend this provision to include a power to obtain information and reports regarding safeguarding the interests of clients and potential clients of an institution. A similar provision has been set down in Section 29(b)(4) of the Insurance Act 1978. Madam President, the minimum criteria for licensing are set down in the second schedule of the Act. The minimum criteria includes matters related to the directors, corporate governance, conduct of business, consolidated supervision, integrity and skill, and minimum net assets, which is presently set at $10 million for a bank and $1 million for a deposit company. Madam President, paragraph 4 of the second schedule of the Act covers matters related to conduct of business, including but not limited to matters related to capital, financial resources, liquidity, depreciation or diminution in the value of assets, record keeping and systems, as well as requirements to comply with the Act, laws pertaining to anti-money laundering and anti-financing of terrorism, and international sanctions. It is proposed to amend paragraph 4 of the second schedule by including obligations to comply with codes of conduct. Madam President, members are advised that the consultation process commenced in August 2020 concluding in February of 2021. Reference is made to the following consultation papers: Bermuda Monetary Authority Discussion Paper, A Conduct of Business Regulatory Framework for Bermuda, August 2020, and the Bermuda Monetary Authority Consultation Paper, Proposal for a Conduct of Business Regulatory Regime, December 2020. Madam President, the consultation package targeted a wide range of stakeholders, both the general public and relevant organizations and institutions. A stakeholder response letter was also published on the authority's website in April of last year to address the queries raised during the consultation process. Madam President, among results that can be extracted from stakeholders' replies, the most prominent areas of actions include those related to scope, timing, and retail versus non-retail customers. Below is a summary encompassing the main findings of the consultation. Madam President, the authority advised that the new provisions will be incorporated into the existing sector-specified codes of conduct. Where there is no such existing code, as in the case of deposit-taking institutions, a new code will be drafted for consultation. The authority also advised that the codes reflect the diversity of Bermuda's financial services market. Madam President, after consulting on draft codes for each sector, the codes will come into effect upon publication. A transition period will be determined for each sector to provide institutions with time to adjust to new requirements. Madam President, the authority consulted on a draft code of conduct for deposit-taking institutions, which is expected to be issued as soon as the necessary legislative amendments are enacted. The authority proposes a 6-month transition period for deposit-taking institutions to comply with the code. Madam President, members are advised that amendments to the Insurance Code of Conduct have already been consulted on and will also be updated later this year to capture the conduct of business requirements in addition to other matters. Madam President, members are further advised that consultation on the draft amendments to the Code of Practice for Digital Asset Business will begin this summer. Madam President, the authority advised that the codes are intended to be proportionate to the nature of the customer and that initial implementation will be primarily focused on retail customers. Madam President, the authority advised that the codes are intended to be applied in the same manner as all other provisions of the relevant framework. The authority also accepts that an entity may comply with what they deem to be a higher standard required by a foreign jurisdiction. Madam President, members are advised that the authority conducted a jurisdictional review and noted that while some jurisdictions, such as New Zealand, have separate supervisory authorities for each financial sector, the same regulators also have responsibility for prudential and conduct supervision. In the UK, the Prudential Regulation Authority acts as the prudential regulator for banks and insurance companies, together with other financial institutions, but the Financial Conduct Authority has a wide conduct remit, including protection of consumers and financial markets. The Central Bank of Ireland has responsibility for multiple sectors for both prudential regulation and conduct of business and consumer protection concerns. Given the scale of the Bermuda financial services market, it is feasible for the authority to assume the conduct of business mandate alongside its prudential responsibilities. Madam President, members are advised that the authority is committed to working with stakeholders to ensure that the conduct of business regulatory regime is aligned with international standards, while proportionate and effective for the Bermuda market. Madam President, members are advised that the customer-facing component of the conduct regime will be addressed through a fit-for-purpose regime, which will come under the aegis of the Consumer Affairs Department under the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Madam President, Section 60 of the Act gives the Minister of Finance, acting on the advice of the authority, the power to make regulations prescribing a variety of matters, including fees. It is proposed to amend the Act to grant the Minister a power to make regulations for the purpose of regulating any commercial or operational business fee, charge or penalty to be paid by the clients of an institution licensed to carry on deposit-taking business for services rendered. This power will allow the Minister to issue regulations on the advice of the authority, who under this legislation will now also have powers to play a greater key role in conduct matters. Madam President, fees charged to, in particular, individuals and smaller retail customers have been the subject of many discussions, and we've received a number of letters, phone calls, and emails expressing concerns on the subject. Therefore, this government believes that addressing such matters is critical. Madam President, introducing regulations of this type is not unique to Bermuda. Our research has highlighted that putting restrictions in place on the fees that can be charged by banks is part of the conduct framework in many other jurisdictions, including our key major trading partners. We recognize that financial institutions have obligations to their shareholders, but it is important to ensure that there are mechanisms in place to safeguard the fact that customer rights and needs are given necessary consideration. Getting the right balance and ensuring fairness and equity are key aspects of this government's platform, and we see this legislation as another important and necessary component of our financial services framework. Madam President, in progressing the fee regime, I am certain that the authority will ensure that there is appropriate consultation with all stakeholders and will allow both the general public and financial institutions to provide their views. Careful consideration will be given to all feedback so that we can have an appropriate framework that works for Bermuda. Madam President, we've already highlighted the significant challenges that an increasing cost of living is having on our residents. This government has already taken steps to provide more relief within the framework of a prudent and robust fiscal and economic strategy. This bill today will allow for similar considerations to be in place within a key financial services sector. Madam President, banks globally have put even greater focus on the generation of fee income to supplement declining interest income, while global interest rates were at historically low levels. This has led to excesses in certain areas, and governments and regulators have taken actions in other countries to address these issues. Bermuda is no different, and this government will ensure that in Bermuda we will do likewise. Madam President, the Bermuda Bankers Association is aware of the government's position and have taken steps to improve transparency in this area. It is my hope that they will collectively address the escalating fees and also address the charges that are outside of global norms. Madam President, the Minister of Finance has made it crystal clear that he prefers not to have to take a heavy-handed approach to ensure that customers' interests are appropriately protected. So we will continue the dialogue with the hopes that they can come to an appropriate resolution. We want to ensure that customers have fair access to banking services, and they should not be disadvantaged by punitive fees when compared to residents in other jurisdictions. Madam President, I wish to express my sincere thanks to the authority, the Ministry of Finance, together with the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Bermuda's Bankers Association for their assistance with the development of this framework. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, the Junior Minister of Finance. And Senators, before I open the floor for you to comment on the bill, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the chamber of the Minister of Public Works, the Lieutenant Colonel, the Honorable David Birch, OBE. Welcome to you, sir. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator DeCuto, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As I stated before on some of the prior acts we looked at, this is clearly a bill that goes in the right direction and will hopefully bring important protection for consumers. I did have a few questions. It's clear that this bill actually adds in the specificities of the Code of Conduct, which works together with the prior BMA amendment. But I was confused, and I hope it can be explained to me about some of the details. And the senator did mention around specific sections where language has been added to specifically regulate specific types of fees, or language was added to specifically regulate or create the power to compel information and reports around enforcing the code. And of course, having gone and looked at the original act, I was confused why it was required to add in these extra details, because by my reading, there was already in the act the allowance for the regulation of fees, which by my perhaps simplistic reading would cover everything that was already covered in the newly added language. And again, there was already a power for the BMA to receive the information and reports, allowing it to carry out its functions, which now would include such things as dealing with the code and so forth. So perhaps that can be explained, because I think all else being equal, we should avoid adding extraneous language. And frankly, I would suggest it might be a little political. So this bill is, around the enforcement of these things, and I hope that the government has some actions to work on the more proactive side, because invariably when consumers interact with a bank, it comes down to a contract. there's something somebody signs, and we know for legal reasons the banks are not inclined to simplify the language. They have to produce a thing that protects them the most in law. And I think there's a real role here for consumer affairs, for example, or some other part of the government to help consumers be educated on what to look for, what to watch out for, things to keep in mind. It might be said that, some people, maybe even myself, might spend more time shopping for a suit than they might spend reading the fine print on a credit card application or a loan application. And I think it would behoove everybody to have the opportunity to better understand how to work with these banks and what they are signing up for. So other than that, this is a good bill. Just unsure that some of the language was strictly required to achieve the stated outcomes, desired outcomes. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Deguto. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none. It's back to you, Senator Ariana Hudson.
Madam President, I don't have a specific answer yet to his questions regarding the wording chosen, but I'm assuming if these are the language and terminology that was used, it was essential in this instance, and so it was what needed to be done. I can wait, and if I receive additional information, I can provide that.
Well, if you get the information later, then you
Okay,
can
that's
relay
fine.
it to Senator Deguto.
That's fine as well. If there are no further questions, Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Banks and Deposit Companies Amendment Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect of this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Banks and Deposit Companies Amendment Act 2022 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Banks and Deposit Companies Amendment Act 2022 do now pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson and senators for your support. We move on now to the next item on our orders of the day, and that is a consideration of the draft order entitled the Contributory Pensions Amendment Benefits Order 2022, and that is also in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson. When you are ready, Senator Hudson, you can begin.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Standing Order 71-2 be suspended so that Senate may now proceed with consideration of the Contributory Pensions Amendment of Benefits Order 2022.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate do now take under consideration the draft order entitled the Contributory Pensions Amendment of Benefits Order 2022.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator.
Thank you,
Hudson.
Madam President. I am pleased to present the order entitled the Contributory Pensions Amendment of Benefits Order 2022. The purpose of the order is to increase pensions and other benefits as described in the Contributory Pensions Act 1970 by a rate of 2.75%. This rate will have a retroactive effective date backdated to August 16, 2021. Madam President, the Contributory Pensions Amendment of Benefits Order 2022, tabled on the 1st of July 2022, is a reflection of government's commitment to improving the quality of life for our senior citizens. Madam President, the government's 2020 election platform declared that this government will put our seniors first and implement annual cost of living increases for social insurance pensions that will be linked to the rate of inflation to help lessen the hardships that too many of our seniors now endure. Madam President, Bermuda, similar to most other countries, currently provides retired individuals with a combination of social insurance from the Contributory Pension Fund, in addition to the occupational pension from their employer. Through no fault of their own, currently a number of retired persons are not receiving an occupational pension and are therefore relying on their social insurance as their sole source of income. Madam President, this is not an ideal situation, and the government continues to do its utmost to ensure that seniors who rely heavily on their social insurance benefits are cared for suitably. Madam President, notwithstanding the above, the CPF benefit continues to provide an important base retirement income for many. Currently, the maximum pension paid under the CPF remains around 26% of the median annual gross earnings for Bermudians, as indicated in the Bermuda Job Market Employment Brief produced by the Department of Statistics. This compares closely to the UK, where the full basic state pension as a percentage of average earnings is around 24%. Madam President, as mentioned, the purpose of the order is to increase pensions and other benefits under the Contributory Pensions Act 1970 by 2.75%, backdated to August 2021. This is when increases are typically made to the benefits. Per the government actuary, the 2.75% increase in benefits would represent a small negative impact to the overall development of the fund at an approximate cost of $4.4 million. Madam President, there are currently 7 types of benefits payable under the Contributory Pensions Act 1970. All of the pensions and allowances will be increased by 2.75%. These pensions and allowances are as follows: contributory old age pension, contributory old age gratuity, contributory widows or widowers allowance, contributory widows or widowers gratuity, contributory disability benefit, non-contributory old age pension, and non-contributory disability benefit. Madam President, the maximum basic contributory pension is currently $1,077.14 per month. The maximum contributory pension currently payable, which would include additional increments added to the basic pension, is approximately $1,570 per month. Although some 14,990 persons currently receive benefits under the Act, the proposed 2.75% increase with additional increments will raise the basic contributory pension to a maximum of $1,106.76 per month, and the maximum benefit, which includes increments, to approximately $1,607 per month. The retroactive payment will be reflected as a lump sum in the September 15, 2022 payment. Thereafter, beneficiaries should expect to see their 2.7% increase in their regularly monthly payment on the 15th of each month. Madam President, the 2.75% increase marks the 14th pension increase that the Progressive Labor Party government has put through in its time in government. Since taking office in November 1998 and now, this government has put through 13 increases prior to this one. August 2000, when we increased pensions by 3%. August 2002, when we increased pensions by 3%. August 2003, when we increased pensions by 3%. August 2004, when we increased pensions by an extraordinary 9%. August 2005, with an increase of 3.5%. August 2006, with an increase of 4%. August 2007, with an increase of 4.5%. August 2008, with an increase of 5%. August 2009, with an increase of 5%. August 2011, with an increase of 3%. August 2017, with an increase of 1.7%. August 2018, with an increase of 1.4%. August 2019, with an increase of 1.2%. And August 2021, with an increase of 2.75%. In every case, the benefit increase has either exceeded the prevailing rate of inflation or has been in line with the underlying trend rate, thereby placing seniors' pensions under the Consumer Price Index in good stead. Madam President, there has currently been much discussion surrounding the Cpi and Index. As mentioned during the tabling of the Contributory Pension Amendment of Benefits Order 2022, the overall CPI rate increased by 0.5% during the period from August 2019 to July 2020, and 0.4% from August 2020 to July 2021. However, it was noted that the food component for the relevant periods increased 2.8% and 2.3% respectively. Madam President, the government understands the importance of health and wellness overall well-being for seniors. It was determined by the Ministry of Finance that an increase above the prevailing CPI rate would be appropriate in the circumstances. Honorable members are advised that based on the CPI per the Department of Statistics, the cost of living has increased by 2.5% since the last increase was granted. Therefore, the proposed benefit increase fully covers the prevailing rate of inflation but also allows for some recognition of the specific impact on seniors on limited incomes due to the increase in food prices. Madam President, I would like to remind the Senate chamber that the 2020 actuarial report for the Contributory Pension Fund was tabled on February 4th, 2022. The 2021 increases in benefits would normally be accompanied by a corresponding increase in contributions by an actuarially recommended rate of 4% above the benefits rate. Madam President, it should also be noted that contributions were last increased in August 2018 by 4.2%. Honorable members will recall that in the 2018 throne speech, government announced that Bermuda's social insurance system will be changed from a fixed rate contribution to one based on a percentage of income. Therefore, it is proposed that contribution increases will be incorporated into proposed changes in the framework, which is expected to be completed during this financial year. Madam President, in that regard, I would note that during the tabling of the 2020 actuarial report in February 4th of this year, important work continues to be done over the past several months by the Pension Reform Committee, which was highlighted. This committee, which includes officials from the Ministry of Finance and the PFIC, assisted by consultants McKinsey & Company and Monod Chappell, has been assessing the current state of the PSSF and the CPF. The work consisted in developing a common set of facts around each fund's status, developing a preliminary set of recommendations, and engaging key stakeholders in our unions, business community, and the Bermuda government. Legal analysis of the various options is ongoing. It is intended that these discussions will result in changes to address the critical issues in relation to funding that have been further highlighted in this report and result in a more progressive framework for contributions. Madam President, honorable members are advised that both the benefit and contribution rates increased during the inter-review period of the actuarial review between 2017 and 2020. Benefit rates increased by 1.7%, 1.4%, and 1.2%, effective August 2017, August 2018, and August 2019, respectively. Madam President, contribution rates increased once over the period by 4.2%, effective August 2018. Considering the relatively strong position of the fund, it is anticipated that the fund can withstand another year's delay in contribution increases. However, it is critical at this juncture that any future increase in contributions come into force in August 2023. Madam President, as at December 31st, 2021, the fund had net assets of over $2.3 billion, representing approximately 12.4 times the annual value of benefits paid in the 2020-2021 fiscal year. The effect of this is that if the CPF received no further contributions, it could still continue to pay out pensions at the prevailing rate for almost 12 years. However, the reality is that contributions will continue through time and will be increased from time to time. In addition, the prudent investment of the pension fund assets is also an important factor in the fund's financial position. In this regard, government's investment strategy for pension fund assets is achieving good results. As mentioned above, as at December 31st, 2021, the contributory pension fund stood at $2.3 billion. The nominal rate of return for the 10 years preceding July 2020 has been 6.1%. Madam President, as evidenced by the 2020 actuarial report tabled in the House of Assembly on the 4th of February 2022, the viability of the fund in the short to medium term is good, with the fund being positive for the next 22 years in 2044. However, recognizing the long-term challenges of the fund, the Ministry will continue to closely monitor the performance of the fund. It should also be noted that the funding policy for the fund is not based on full actuarial funding, but based on sustainable funding. That is, contributions plus investment income should cover benefits and administration expenses on an annual basis, while the fund builds up sufficient reserves to cover several years of benefits and expenses to withstand future adverse circumstances. Madam President, despite the encouraging short to medium term outlook on the fund, what is clearly evident from the latest actuarial review is that Bermuda, like most of the developed world, is faced with the challenges associated with the growth of an aging population. This increase in our seniors will obviously place a greater strain on the country's pension system. It is therefore essential that government continues to closely monitor performance of the fund and our overall pension arrangements to ensure the long-term sustainability of the fund. However, taking care of our seniors is also a priority for us. We remain confident, Madam President, that we will continue to strike the right balance between social and fiscal responsibility. Madam President, in closing, I wish to again assure members and, more importantly, current and future pensioners that the government is sensitive to the challenges facing pension plans of this nature. We will therefore endeavor to take the appropriate steps to enhance the benefits paid from the National Pension Plan, as well as ensure the fund has the ongoing ability to pay for such benefits. As such, I am proposing that this bill be passed into law. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister of Finance. Would any senator care to speak on this order? Senator DeCuto, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator, for that presentation. I understand from the presentation the government's view that these increases are outpacing the cost of living. But to be frank, I think everybody recognizes that the actual cost of living is far outpacing what we are officially reporting here in Bermuda. It can be seen on the streets, can be seen in the grocery stores, the fuel bill, the rents, the electricity. We see it in the overseas inflation reports. And of course, most of what we use, buy, eat, consume here is shipped in with an additional cost for the shipping, which is almost like a double tax from the inflation. And I know that in reality, while this will be welcomed by seniors, and is why, frankly, I suspect that it's been backdated for the lump sum, it's not going to be sufficient. What plans does the government have to arrive at a more realistic CPI that reflects what people are actually experiencing? And when might they expect to see that? And well, really, that's the question. Because while this will be welcomed by people, it's clear that it won't be enough. And it's hard for people to have confidence in the government's numbers when they know that it doesn't match their reality that they feel and hear every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator DeCuto. Would any other senator care to speak on this order? Senator Michelle Simmons, Vice President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be very brief. I just want to thank the Junior Minister for bringing this order before us today, and to say that even though it's not a huge increase in the pension, I think it's going to be welcomed by seniors, many of whom are really facing some very, very tough times during this period of economic challenge, I'll call it that. So taking the whole picture into consideration, I think that government has stepped forward in a positive way to try to recognize that this support for seniors, and I have to say I'm included in this, this support for seniors will be received in a positive way. And I just hope that government will continue to follow up on its efforts to do something about the cost of living in Bermuda. And a big part of that is the work that's being done toward the development of a living wage. So I said I'd be brief. I just want to say I support the order, and I thank the government for looking out for our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak on this order? Hearing none, then Senator Ariana Hudson is back to you.
Madam President, given that I did not hear a clear question from Senator Ducuto, other than the challenge around the figures that have been provided by government departments. I would like to proceed, if that's okay with you. Or what, does he have another question?
Senator Ducuto, did you have a specific question?
What steps, sorry, Madam President, I believe the question I thought I was asking, and I apologize if I was unclear, is what steps is the government taking to arrive at a more realistic CPI that matches what people are feeling in their wallets today? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ducuto. I'm not sure you can answer.
Thank you, Madam President. Given that there's no appropriate to that answer to that question, I would like to proceed. And so, Madam President, I move that the said draft order be approved and that the following message be sent to Her Excellency the Governor. May it please Your Excellency, the Senate, having had under consideration the draft order entitled the Contributory Pensions Amendment of Benefits Order 2022, proposed to be made by the Minister of Finance in exercise of the power conferred by Section 37 of the Contributory Pensions Act 1970, has the honor to inform Your Excellency that the Senate has approved the said draft order. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the order being sent? Hearing none, then the order shall be sent. Thank you, Senators. Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson.
Madam
And
President, if I may just grab your attention, Senator
Minister
Hudson,
Peets, yes?
Senator Hudson is on a roll.
Yes,
No, certainly.
she's had a very busy day today, for
And
sure.
I've had a brief conversation with her. She would like to continue with number 7 and number 8 on our order paper. If we can just defer number 6 and number 9 to after she's finished, if that pleases.
All right, so we'll move on to numbers 7 and 8 at this stage. Yes.
Thank you for the accommodation.
Yes. Senator Hudson, then when you're ready, you can move on to your second read, the quarantine amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Quarantine Amendment Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise to introduce the bill entitled the Quarantine Amendment Act 2022. Madam President, this bill amends the Quarantine Act 2017 to ensure that emergency orders made by the Quarantine Authority, such as the Quarantine COVID-19 No. 3 Order 2020, which applies to all travelers, whether resident or visitor, applies also to any officer or member of crew of certain armed forces that are traveling to Bermuda. Currently, the Act and regulations made under the Act do not apply to any conveyance forming part of the UK or Commonwealth Armed Services or the armed forces of any country designated pursuant to the UK's Visiting Forces Act 1952. Madam President, the first line of defense from global public health threats is the security of our ports and airports. Control of the arrival of travelers, ships, and aircraft at our borders is fundamental for the safety of Bermuda to protect against imported communicable diseases. The Quarantine Act was promulgated in 2017 exactly for the purpose of modernizing and strengthening our response to international public health threats. Madam President, the honorable senators will know that the world continues to suffer because of the highly infectious disease, COVID-19, caused by the novel coronavirus. This led to the World Health Organization declaring a public health emergency of international concern in 2020. The World Health Organization actually reaffirmed the public health emergency as recently as this week, or last week, I'd say. This bill ensures that the provisions of the Quarantine COVID-19 order apply as necessary to certain armed forces while a public health emergency continues. To be clear, Madam President, the amendment to the Act will ensure that any emergency orders made by the Quarantine Authority apply armed forces conveyances traveling to Bermuda. Outside of a public health emergency, the Act and regulations made under the Act continue to be not applicable to the previously stated armed forces. Thank you, Madam President.
Yes. Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson. You were speaking then as in your capacity as Junior Minister for Health. I just wanted to say that. Would any senator care to speak on the Quarantine Amendment Act? Senator Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to the Junior Minister for bringing us this piece of legislation today. I would say that the opposition will support this piece of legislation. I do want to say that it is obviously quite clear that the amendment seems to close a gap that was previously overlooked. And so it is clear that it is necessary to do that for this particular purpose. I would like to say, Madam President, that while we support the extension and also recognize that the Quarantine Act, part of the Quarantine Act's purpose is also to support the travel authorization as well. Couldn't not speak to that without speaking to the travel authorization, which I don't support, by the way. But I would just like the Junior Minister to know if the Junior Minister could share with us what signals would the government have to, or what are they looking for in order to bring these regulations, this particular act to an end? Like, what's the benchmark? Where are we headed? And what would signal that it would be safe to go ahead and bring these to an end? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Ben Smith, opposition leader in the Senate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Tucker was touching on the travel authorization specifically because I believe that it comes under this quarantine section. And for that reason, I guess the more specific question would be, what indications would we have to remove the travel authorization prior to the intended deadline, which is at the end of the fiscal year in 2023? And the reason is because it is having an impact on people traveling to Bermuda. And obviously it's been confirmed in this chamber that it's a tax. That's what it was put in place for. And the money is being collected, but it's been put in that position because it's supposed to be for health reason. So either we change it to a tax that is to collect the money and remove it from being considered for health. So the question is, what benchmarks do we have to have that say we don't need a travel authorization because of the frustration that it's caused and because of the impact that it is having on people visiting our island? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Minister Peets, you
Yeah.
have the floor.
Yes, Madam President. Given the fact that actually this particular matter that the Junior Minister is speaking about is the Quarantine Amendment Act, the questions from the opposition senators are certainly noted, but I would imagine they're more appropriate actually for the draft order entitled Public Health COVID Emergency Extension Order number 5, which you will do next.
Thank you for that observation. Senator Ben Smith.
Yeah, sorry, Madam President. The reason we are giving the questions in quarantine and not in the bill that the minister just referred to is because in another place this exact discussion happened, and the everyone in that house were told that they had to put it in this part, and they hadn't done that. So that's the reason that we're asking these questions here and not in the bill that's coming after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. And Senator Hudson, then it's over to you for a response.
Thank you, Madam President. I also listened to the endless debate in the House last week, Friday, and I do believe that the minister provided the necessary responses. As we know, we are still in a public health emergency. And to be quite honest, there need not be a response to those questions as they aren't relevant here. Right now, we are looking at amending the Act as it relates to the applicability of emergency orders to the armed forces of UK or Commonwealth or of any country designated pursuant to the UK's visiting forces. So I just want to remind us that this is the matter at hand. In light of that, I will move that the bill entitled the Quarantine Amendment Act 2022 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect of this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Quarantine Amendment Act 2022 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Quarantine Amendment Act 2022 do not pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson and senators who have spoken. We'll now move on to item number 8. And Senator Hudson, you're going to do this one, which is the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension number 5 Order 2022. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that Standing Order 71-2 be suspended so that Senate may now proceed with consideration of the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension number 5 Order 2022.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate do now take under consideration the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension number 5 Order 2022.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator Ariana Hudson.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I invite this honorable chamber to consider the order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension number 5 Order 2022. Madam President, senators will be aware the current public health emergency order is scheduled to lapse on the 29th of July, 2022. The emergency orders, which have been in place since the 30th of June, 2020, are made pursuant to Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949 and declare that a public health emergency exists in Bermuda due to a communicable disease that poses a threat to the island. Madam President, the virus that causes COVID-19 spreads easily and quickly, but we can slow its spread by following basic public health advice, such as wearing a well-fitting mask to cover our nose and mouth, as well as physically distancing and practicing good hand hygiene. We can also avoid the 3 C's of closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings to reduce the opportunities for infection to spread. In addition, Madam President, getting vaccinated adds a layer of protection, particularly with respect to your likelihood of hospitalization or death. We are fortunate in that the Bermuda community responded well to the government's mass vaccination campaign, as well as the vaccine offered through participating medical practices, health services, and pharmacies. The COVID-19 vaccination was available from the 11th of January, 2021 until the 30th of June, 2022, and we have now fully vaccinated 75% of our population. That figure rises to 84% when you consider just the eligible population. We will be seeking more of the COVID vaccine in the autumn. Madam President, as the government has indicated many times, it is clear we must ensure we live safely with COVID-19 because it will be with us for a long time, both locally and globally. Even now, there are greater numbers of people visiting the hospital's emergency department with symptoms, and KEMH admissions are increasing. The novel coronavirus was declared a public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization in January 2020. It was confirmed as a global pandemic in March 2020. Unfortunately, 2 years later, the COVID-19 pandemic is not over yet. In fact, Madam President, as reported in the House, following deliberations of the 12th meeting of the International Health Regulations Emergency Committee on the 8th of July, 2022, the World Health Organization Director General reconfirmed that the pandemic continues to constitute a public health emergency of international concern. In light of this, it is important for all of us to understand the pandemic state of play in the world right now. Madam President, at the IHR committee meeting on the 8th of July, concern was expressed regarding the current COVID-19 situation globally. Cases of COVID-19 reported to the World Health Organization increased by 30% in the 2 weeks preceding that committee meeting. The case count is largely driven by the Omicron variants BA4 and BA5 and the general relaxation of public health measures around the world. Madam President, please note this concern is based on reported cases. Like Bermuda, changes in testing policies globally, being a reduction in official testing and an increase in in-home testing, means that there is undercounting of actual COVID-19 cases. Worryingly, this impedes assessment of circulating and emergent variants, as a reduction in testing also results in a reduction in genomic sequencing. Madam President, as noted by the IHR Committee, there is an urgent ongoing need to reduce the spread of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. The epidemiology of the novel coronavirus remains unpredictable as the virus continues to evolve through sustained transmission in our communities. To quote the final statement of the IHR Committee, the trajectory of viral evolution and the characteristics of emerging variants of the virus remain uncertain and unpredictable, and in the absence of the adoption of public health measures aiming at reducing transmission, the resulting selective pressure on the virus increases the probability of new, fitter variants emerging with different degrees of virulence, transmissibility, and immune escape potential. Madam President, it is not possible to repeat this too many times. It is critically important for all of us to be responsible, consistent, and unrelenting in our use of personal protective equipment, such as face masks, in our behaviors, such as practicing physical distancing, good hand hygiene, and staying at home when sick, and in our activities by avoiding closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings, as well as taking a risk-based approach to mass gatherings. The World Health Organization continues to recommend countries apply public health measures which are in proportion to their situation based on disease prevalence, population protection, and health system capacity. On these points, Madam President, let us be clear. Bermuda is in a state of community transmission with respect to the highly infectious Omicron variant. While we are fortunate to have a high vaccination rate, we continue to experience hospital admissions and deaths. Our health system is susceptible to significant pressures due to COVID. Madam President, as we all know, Bermuda only has one hospital. Currently, about 1/3 of the acute care wing at KMH is occupied by people who unfortunately are suffering from COVID-19. Further, 2 long-term care wards are in quarantine due to additional positive cases. This means that people in acute care beds cannot be transferred to the long-term care wards, even if they are ready. A further knock-on effect is that acute care beds become unavailable for those in our community needing admission post-surgery, and that can cause surgeries to be postponed. While the government has relaxed various public health measures, there are some settings where restrictions cannot be eliminated. Madam President, as a reminder, we must all wear a face mask when traveling by bus, ferry, excluding the outdoor decks, taxi, limousines, or minibus for both passengers and operators. While working in or visiting health service providers such as doctor or dentist, nurses, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, etc., and health services such as the hospital, dental facilities, laboratories, residential care facilities, etc. While visiting or working at correctional facilities, and while inside the LF8 International Airport building. Also, Madam President, several businesses have set their own mask requirements for staff and customers. These are appropriate for their establishments, and all members of the public must comply with these requirements. This includes those working in, visiting, or using government services, as masks are required by all staff and customers in all government buildings and offices. Madam President, the coronavirus is very easily transmitted. It is mainly spread from person to person by small virus-containing droplets that are exhaled when an infected person is speaking, singing, coughing, sneezing, or breathing. This is why mask wearing is important. COVID-19 is a respiratory disease. Well-fitting masks are a simple and very effective form of personal protective equipment, forming a barrier from getting and spreading respiratory infections. In addition to the continued requirement to wear masks indoors, as previously stated, we also recognize it is important to apply essential controls at our border, which are specific to and meet the challenges of COVID-19's impact on our island community. Madam President, the Minister of Health consulted with the Chief Medical Officer and determined that a communicable disease of the first category, namely COVID-19 and its variants of concern, does persist and continues to pose a severe threat to public health in Bermuda. To control and contain the spread of infection, public health measures, such as those provided for in regulations made under Section 107B of the Public Health Act 1949, will continue to be relevant and necessary beyond the 29th of July, 2022. Madam President, this order before us now will extend the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Order 2021, made under Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949, and empower the governor to make public health emergency regulations under Section 107B of that act, which impose extraordinary measures necessary in the interest of public health to prevent, control, and suppress COVID-19. Madam President, honorable senators will be aware that the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 4 Order 2022 was made under the affirmative resolution procedure for 60 days, expiring on the 29th of July 2022, when Parliament is not in session. However, we know that the COVID-19 pandemic continues globally and is still pervasive in Bermuda. We also know a public health emergency will continue to exist on our island beyond the 29th of July 2022. Therefore, in accordance with Sections 107A3 and 4 of the Public Health Act 1949, I bring the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 5 Order 2022 to this honorable chamber to seek approval for the extension of the public health emergency for a further 60 days, ending on the 26th of September 2022. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister for Health. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And again, thank you to the Junior Minister for bringing this piece of legislation, this order to us today. Notwithstanding, I asked this question with the Quarantine Act. I would ask the same question as to whether there are any benchmarks that the government may be looking for that would trigger the potential for us to be able to stop extending these orders. I recognize that we are still in a COVID environment, that's a given. However, we are told constantly that we have to learn to live with COVID. And as we all know, it's been debated in various places that if there became a pressing need to reinstate any of these orders, that it could be done very easily, very quickly. So it just sends a bit of a confusing message. But I'm just wondering, I don't believe, based on what we've seen here today, unfortunately, that there will be an answer to that question, but I just want to put it out there anyway. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Ben Smith, Opposition Leader in the Senate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I think that it would help everyone in the Senate and in the community if we had maybe a better idea of what the impact of COVID is having in the community right now. Because we've gone through this over the last couple of years. So we know that there are people in the hospital. We know that we have still actually getting people that are dying from COVID. So my question is, because we have such a high percentage of our population that is vaccinated, are we seeing fully vaccinated people that are ending up in the hospital and then unfortunately dying? And the reason I ask that question is because I think with the majority having been vaccinated, they thought that they were going to be protected. So when we keep coming here and saying, why are we going through, emergency order after emergency order, we're just looking for, is there an end in sight? Because the population wants to know if there's an end in sight to this. If we are going to continue to have COVID sickness for years to come, we can't stay in emergency powers forever. So that's why we're asking the question, like, what is it that we're looking for so that as a community, maybe people will feel a little more comfortable knowing, okay, we're not quite there yet, but this is what we should be getting to. Because at present, you leave Bermuda, you get on a plane and no one has any regulations at all. And then you come back to Bermuda on the plane, you walk through the airport and you have to put your mask on. And then you walk out of the airport, you take your mask off, and then you go about your business. And we're about to have a really huge event next week where people are going to be going back to what all of us would hope would be a normal and wonderful holiday. But COVID is still existing. That's what we're discussing. So maybe if we got a little more detail of what it is that's happening, I think people would even be more cautious in the upcoming week, knowing what the impact could be. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. There's no doubt about it. We are still in a pandemic, and COVID hasn't really gone anywhere. It keeps mutating. The virus keeps mutating. And now we have, I think, Omicron. I've forgotten what letters come after its name, but it seems to be even more virulent than the previous version of Omicron, which was quite virulent. So we still need to be careful. And it takes each one of us in this community to be part of the protection that we need for ourselves and for other people. So one of the things the junior minister mentioned that really got my attention was that one third of the acute care wing at King Edward is occupied by COVID patients. I think the latest figure I heard of the number of hospitalizations was about 58. If we were to take that number and match it to statistics that we had about a year ago in terms of looking at the number of cases in the community at large, I think that we would be quite shocked by that number, because we all recognize there is underreporting of current COVID cases. So if the number right now out there is 200 and something, you can probably triple it. And that would be a more realistic view of the number of cases out there. But I want to share something with regard to surgeries at King Edward. I have a friend who has been waiting for a very long time. It could be upwards of a year to have surgery. It's elective surgery. But as COVID cases rise in the hospital management have to make decisions about how they're going to manage those cases. And in many instances, they've had to close the hospital to elective surgeries. So my friend is one of many who've been waiting for a long, long time to have an elective surgery. She is about a week away from having her surgery. And hearing of the escalation in cases at the hospital, of course, there's anxiety that her surgery may be canceled yet again. So in my opinion, we need to be aware of the fact that these emergency orders are not taken lightly. And therefore, I recognize that government needs to be in a position to be able to take action. Well, it's really the governor to take action to protect the whole community. So while this is not anyone's preference to keep enacting these emergency orders, I just see it as something that's necessary. So let's pray that, yes, we do see a decline in COVID cases in Bermuda, but we have to also realistically understand that we have to deal with the situation as it comes. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak? Mr. Peets?
Yes, Madam President, thank
You
you. I
have the
certainly
floor.
appreciate the conversation that we're having today. Of course, everything that we say, of course, is recorded on Hansard. So I certainly want to make known that the senators were correct to actually raise this question under the Quarantine Act. Done a little digging, and they were actually correct to raise it during that particular part of our proceedings today. But of course, this particular conversation, is really, really clear to me. This particular order expires in July, on the 29th. And I just think it's really prudent and responsible as a government to extend it, given the fact that we still are in the midst of an emergency. Yeah, it's possible for, the legislature and the parliament to reconvene a special session, but it's so much more convenient and prudent, in my opinion, to extend it so we don't have to worry about trying to convene parliament, for example, in the event that the unforeseen or the possible actually occurs. We've been on a very, very steady but important glide path as it relates to restrictions. Right now, on island, there are virtually no restrictions as it relates to what we may have experienced in months and years past. Save the fact that under certain circumstances and in certain environments, there needs to be a mass mandate in order to protect our vulnerable populations in the hospitals, our rest homes, our in prisons, for example. So obviously, I'm in support of this. I certainly thank the junior minister for her presentation. I just thank the public also for their cooperation. We have to get through this situation together. Obviously, the TA has been a significant bone of contention on social media, et cetera, over the last couple of weeks and months. But the government, of course, has been responsive to those things as well. And the TA has undergone, a bunch of modifications to make it simpler and easier and so forth. So this is the type of things that we certainly have to thank our public health officials and all those who are responsible for keeping us safe. It's not an easy task. And I don't think we actually thank them enough for how they have managed this COVID pandemic over the last 2 years. So I'm certainly proud to support them and to recognize their work, but also to thank the public for their contribution and what they're doing to keep us safe. So for the junior minister, I want to just applaud her today. She's worked extremely hard, and this particular is her last bill today, and I think she's represented herself really well.
Thank you, Minister Peets. And before moving on, I would just like to say, I beg your pardon, Senator Dekuto, did you want to speak? I'm sorry. I was going to make a comment, but Senator Dekuto, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just listened. I had not planned to speak. Many interesting areas have been covered on this. This is a tough topic, and we've heard from Minister Peets, Senator Simmons, Senator Hodgins. We understand. It can be true that we ought to have the order in place now, but it can also be true, Madam President, that we should expect our government to have a plan as to when it should go away. That is the nature of an extraordinary thing such as this order. We should not blindly roll it forward. So it can be true that we can congratulate and be proud of our healthcare professionals and our civil servants, which we all are, and we are grateful for that. It can also be true that we are disappointed that the government as a whole does not seem to have a plan or an understanding of when to get rid of this emergency order. And that, I think, is what my colleagues were trying to get at, Madam President. And that is what's concerning to me and to us. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Dekuto. I would just like to say that as a health professional myself, and as someone who was the CEO of the hospital, and I know many of the people who are working in the hospital, either the nurses, the doctors, or whoever. And I can assure you that in this island of 60 whatever thousand people, to have a hospital that has that number of COVID patients in it, it is a very serious thing that we cannot ignore. COVID has been around for some time, and if you're looking at the news overseas and the people who are traveling, you can see that everyone is struggling with dealing with COVID. But we have to face what we are dealing with here on this island. And I can assure you that when I heard that there were over 50 patients in the hospital with COVID, and that even the number may be even more than that outside the hospital because people are not declaring. So we need to be very, very, very cautious, very, very circumspect in the decisions that we make, either in the other house or here. It is absolutely critical. This is not a decision that is made lightly. It is made with discussions with the health professionals in this island. And I think that when such a bill is brought here, then we really need to look at it for what it says and what it's worth, and be mindful of this island and the one hospital that we have here. I mean, there's no other hospital. We cannot ship people out. We have to deal with them here. And I go into the hospital, I talk to the professionals, and they are very, very concerned. Heaven forbid if any of the staff, and that's the other issue that we also need to be mindful of, that the staff themselves could be exposed. And then when you have shortages of staff, who's going to be here to care for these patients? I mean, some of them may have secondary conditions. We have a very high rate of diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease in this island. And so, when decisions like this have to be made, I think we need to be very circumspect and also support such decisions. This is not a decision that has been made lightly. And so I would just implore each of us, when we're considering this, that we don't look at it from just one aspect, but we look at it as a whole. And as a health professional, I can tell you that I am glad that this has been brought. I am glad that the government is responding in the manner that it is, because heaven forbid, we don't know what tomorrow, next week, or next month is going to bring. So I thank the Junior Minister for Health for bringing this bill, and I support it wholeheartedly. And the questions that you're asking, we don't have an answer for right now. But what we do have is that the government is responding, and we need to support them. So with that, I support this extension order wholeheartedly, and I thank the government, and I thank you, Senator Hudson, for bringing it and presenting it in the manner in which you have. With that, I hand back over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. And with your comments, I can move along as well. You've taken most of what I had planned to say. Unfortunately, the global pandemic does continue to exist, and it poses a significant threat to our island in particular, where our healthcare systems are already stretched. Again, I want to say that it's not fair to say that the government doesn't have a plan. However, from day to day, the situation changes. And as was said in the House last week, Friday, I would hope that if the opposition was in government as well, that they would take the necessary steps to protect our Bermudians, and particularly our highly susceptible populations. And so, Madam President, I move that the said draft order be approved, and that the following message be sent to Her Excellency the Governor. May it please Your Excellency, the Senate, having had under consideration the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 5, Order 2022, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949, has the honor to inform Your Excellency that the Senate has approved the said draft order. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there any objection to the message being sent? No objection. Therefore, the message will be sent. Thank you, Senators, and thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson. You've had a very full day, but I want to applaud you for the work that you've done today. And Senators, it has passed lunch, and I need to ask you, the Senate, whether or not we still have two bills to do, and that is the item number 6 on the agenda, which is the second reading of the Domestic Partnership Amendment. And we also have consideration of the draft order, Tourism Investment, Cambridge Beaches Resort. So my question to you is, do we break for lunch, or do you want to take a lunch? Vote for lunch? With that, then, the leader in the Senate has spoken. Senators, we will break for lunch, and we will return at 2 o'clock.